Do a cold start. There it is. All right, so YouTube is just starting to downpour here, but it is Friday, and I'm gonna make a video talking about the things that I like about my Porsche Cayman. This is a 2006 987.1 generation. This is the first year of the Cayman ever. It's the smallest Cayman, I believe also the lightest Cayman ever made. And this has a 3.4 liter flat six. This one is currently tuned with a Softronics ECU flash, has a different plenum, catless headers, Fab-Speed X-pipe, put down 300 wheel horsepower on a dyno. So this is definitely one of the faster NA 987s that are still around. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the things that I like about mine now that I've had it for a couple months, and I'm actually getting rid of it this weekend. So I'll talk about that in another video. So I wanted to make this video before I gave it up. It's not because I don't like the car. I love it, love it, love it. It's great. So let's dive in and talk about the great things about this car. All right, so the first thing that I'll comment about this Cayman that is so great is the size of it. And not just the physical size, there's another feature I'll talk about after, but most importantly, the physical size is great. It's a really small car. It's very maneuverable, very sharp. It's easy to steer. And the small size, this is the smallest car I have ever owned. And until you really drive one of these, you don't really realize how small it is. I've said in my first impressions video, it feels like you're wearing it like a jacket. It really encompasses you, and the cockpit feel, you have a low roof line, low windows, especially me, I'm fairly tall, so I sit up a little bit high in here. But it's great. The small size is fantastic. I imagine on the track, especially if you're competing against other people, it probably feels fantastic to maneuver through people and weave through people, and it's very easy to pass people as well on the highway. If you're just weaving through traffic or just moving around on the road, it's very easy to do. And the small size of the Cayman is really one of the best features about it. And that's what makes it so special. It really is a smaller car compared to the 911. A lot of people will think of it as just like a poor man's 911 or something like that, but this car just feels so different in every way. And until you drive one, if you're looking at one, or if you're watching this because you want to, go and get one, I highly recommend that you go and test drive one, and you'll see what I mean. It's really a fantastic car, size-wise. And to add to that, even though Porsche has designed such a small vehicle physically, the space in here is honestly quite good for a two-seater car. I have plenty of headroom. My seat isn't even all the way down. I could move it down a lot more. My seat isn't pushed all the way back. I have plenty of leg room. I have room to just, move around freely in here and not feel like I'm claustrophobic. You do get a little bit of that with the low roof line, but you get used to it pretty quick, and it's not really that big of a deal. But yeah, it's amazing that Porsche has designed such a small car physically, but they've taken into consideration that the people buying it will not just be, very short people. So I'm, for example, 6'3" tall. For reference, for anyone looking at this, I imagine someone up to 6'5" or 6'6" in height could easily fit in this car and adjust the seat and be comfortable. So again, bravo to Porsche for the design, and I know that carries through to the newer Caymans and Boxers likewise. You can fit in them pretty easily if you're a large person, but the footprint of the car, very small, very maneuverable. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, very obviously, is the handling. Yes, the handling of this car is fantastic. Thanks to the small footprint of this car, and right behind me, you have the mid-engine layout. So the car really handles phenomenally. And I think that goes without saying, but it's worth noting that this car can be had for, $20,000, and you get a terrific handling vehicle. When I have taken this car on back roads and thrown it around corners, it really just sticks. I've never felt like it was gonna slide or fall off the road or anything like that. And you guys who have been watching my channel for a while know that I had an older Mustang, actually similar to this, 2005, and I had a 2007 335i. So the Mustang, zero confidence was inspired in that vehicle. That car, if I gave it any amount of G-forces, I was terrified it was gonna fly off the road. It would understeer terribly. It was not a handling car by any means. And likewise, the 335 is more of a luxury car that has the sporty aspect, so I never really pushed it or anything like that. This car is just so lightweight. It's only 2,900 pounds, and the small layout, you can just rip through windy roads like nothing. If this is gonna be a Sunday cruiser for you, this is a fantastic option, because there is no better car to handle those windy roads in that price point than this car right here. I just don't think for 20 grand you're gonna get a car that handles better out of the box than a Cayman. You know, likewise, you could get a 996, 911, I'm sure that's fine too. But this is, if you're looking for a mid-engine car and something a little newer, this is it. It really is fantastic. It truly inspires confidence, and it has made me appreciate a well-handling car more than any other car I've really had a significant amount of time in, or any car that I've owned. And now that's something I'm gonna look for in any car, because this car is definitely gonna ruin it for future cars for me. I don't think I could go back to something like a Mustang after being in this. So again, if you're looking for a weekend cruiser, something to tackle windy roads in, maybe take autocrossing or something, it's a fantastic option. You guys are not gonna be disappointed. Another thing that I really like, I think it's worth noting separately, although it does tie into handling. I guess this is somewhat of a cheap note, quote unquote, but the steering is just unbeatable. I mean, again, for the price point, the steering wheel is a good size. You have good bolstering just for the physical wheel itself, but the steering feel and feedback is just superb. It's really excellent. The steering isn't too heavy. It's actually quite easy to move. That said, you really do feel like you're actually, you feel like you're interfacing with the tires, if that makes sense. And a lot of newer cars, especially after the 987 generation Porsche, they had 987.1 and then the .2. The 981, which is the newer replacement after these, they went to an electric steering system. So the 987 generation, I would recommend just for that reason alone. And I know people really rave about the steering in these, but it is fantastic. It's really, really direct, really sharp, but I don't know, it's just balanced so well. So one of the other perks about this car is the powertrain. It's a high revving flat six. Stock, this car will make 295 horsepower at the crank, and that honestly may not sound like a lot. I know I underestimated the car, but I think that's plenty. I haven't driven a stock one, but I think that's gonna be plenty. This car makes 300 wheel, which is marginally more. Before I bought this car, I didn't really think it was gonna be that exciting before I went to go test drive it. I was like, oh, I'll go look at it. My friend sort of persuaded me to go look at it. And then once I drove it, I really liked it. And after owning it for a while and, quote, learning how to drive it, right? Because I came from pretty torque heavy cars that were easy to bog down. This is not one of those cars. You wanna have it revved out, and that's really where it shines. So once I really learned how to, drive it and get the most out of the motor, it's really a pleasant experience to drive. And if you have one of these cars with an exhaust setup with headers or an X-pipe or really any sort of exhaust modification, the flat six really screams and has an awesome sound. The feeling that you get from a naturally aspirated motor, especially nowadays with things going to turbos and superchargers, things like that, it's really a pleasant experience to drive. Not to mention that the motor is really smooth feeling. It's not rough. There's no, quirks or any weird things like that. It's a very precise engine. It feels very smooth, and it just sounds good. So, yeah, that's definitely a good perk. If you buy one of these, I highly recommend a nice exhaust setup or finding one with one, because it is worth it. It sounds so good. All right, so that pretty much sums it up, but I'll give a bonus to those who are looking for these cars. I highly recommend getting the 987.2 generation. The engine in the .2 is much more reliable. They don't have bore scoring. They don't have the IMS bearing issue. What are those issues if you're not aware? So the IMS bearing issue doesn't really affect too many cars. From what I've been told, if you find one with a Cayman with higher mileage that has good maintenance records, you're probably okay for the IMS bearing. If that part fails and you have a Cayman, it basically, your motor's toast. So that's unfortunate. Make sure you find one that has been well taken care of, had frequent oil changes, things of that nature. For scoring, again, more info online you can probably find outside of this video, but that can affect these cars at any mileage, at any time. Basically what happens is the cylinder starts to get scoring on the walls, and it'll eventually just crumble into nothing, and you need a full engine rebuild. These symptoms can be pretty slow to delay. You can start to notice it if the car's smoking a lot. So just keep an eye out for things like that if you go and test drive one. The good news is if you catch it early, I mean, it's still an expensive thing to fix, but it won't totally blow up your engine basically. But if you let it go to, you know, complete nothing, then you're screwed. The engine's gonna be toast. So, but like I said, 987.2 does not have those problems. It's a pricier car, it's a newer car. They have a nicer interior, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it to have that peace of mind and not deal with the that looming fear of the IMS or the bore scoring issues. So I hope that helps. If you guys go and buy one, or if you guys think this is helpful, let me know. Share the ones that you bought below. Share your tips and tricks for other people. Let's make this a nice forum for people to get information about these cars. If you get one, share photos with me, or, you know, post it on my YouTube wall or whatever, or I don't know, on Instagram you can follow me at ChrisNicholas28. You guys can share. I'm happy to talk Porsche all day. I love this car. And yeah, I hope you guys think this is helpful and you find the right Cayman for you. Thanks for watching. Take care.